All right, folks, welcome to Field of Streams. We're going to talk about a cocktail party. So, Mitch and Matt on top, Ashley and Ethan on the bottom. It's it is what it is.
We generate the power, man. That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ethan, you and Ashley want to get it kicked off here. We got this some Gator notes to go over, so I'll let you guys have the floor to start with.
All right. So, Ashley, we finally have football to talk about. Last week, we didn't have anything to really talk about since we had a little outbreak of the vid. How did you feel after our game with Missouri? What's your opinion?
It was
Let's start there.
satisfying. That would be the feeling to describe it the most. It'd been a long time, as you said, since I got to watch some Gator football. And coming into the game, I was real concerned about the defense and wondering if we were even going to be able to stop Missouri from scoring consistently. And I will say I'm glad that they did. And ultimately, it was a very satisfying game.
Yeah, especially after the way the Texas A&M game ended.
Exactly.
To come back and have almost everything go your way. A couple things that I kind of noticed when I did my rewatch of it. The entire first half was pretty much garbage for both teams. Florida had 2 field goals and Missouri had a pick 6, which, by the way, that would have been a touchdown if our right tackle, our much beleaguered right tackle, actually blocked anybody. But instead, Trask got hit through a duck and it went the other way. With about 4 minutes left in the second quarter, everything just went crazy. And Florida had a big drive for a touchdown. Then 2 plays into Missouri's next drive, they fumble it on the 30-yard line. Florida gets the ball back with like a minute and a half left. I'm not sure the exact time. But, all of this followed when there was a punt earlier in the second quarter, which should have been a turnover, was ruled against that. And then, of course, to top it all off, at the end of halftime, this was kind of what made me interested in it, was that we ran a quarterback or a draw with 2 seconds left, and Missouri was offside, so we got an untimed down, and that's why we threw the Hail Mary, which led to the incident. But overall, the stats from the game, real good. We had over 500 yards of offense, held Missouri to 248 yards of offense. I looked 123 total yards through the first 3 quarters. They just couldn't do anything the whole game. Hopefully we can do that again next week, though.
It's definitely going to be difficult, and I'll be the first to admit that. I know Georgia is, not putting up quite the offense they probably want to, but at the same time, they're littered with 4- and 5-star athletes, mainly 5-star athletes, and I'm just hoping our defense can show out against Georgia like they were able to show up against Missouri. So
yeah.
That will be.
And I feel like the biggest difference for me was that we actually were generating pressure. We only had 4 sacks, so only that's still a pretty good day, but we had 5 quarterback hurries, in the first 3 quarters before we pulled our starters. That's a conceptual thing. Todd Grantham just hasn't seemed to have been bringing heat the first 4 games, and it led to a lot of very soft, very vanilla defenses, the kind of which gives you 12 for 15 on 3rd downs against Texas A&M. When we kind of get to the Georgia-Florida preview, that's going to be the thing that, to me, is going to be a pretty big difference maker. Because in the Missouri game, Missouri went 3 for 15, Florida went 4 for 13. So they couldn't move the ball on us, but for the entire first half, up until about 5 minutes left, we couldn't move the ball on them either, and that's not going to cut it. Going 4 for 13 against Georgia, it's not going to end well for us.
Yeah, definitely not going to work.
I got a quick question for you guys. What did you think of what's the name, Basilak, the freshman quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he seemed pretty confident. He definitely made a couple of clutch throws and caught our guys off guard. He identified the men that were playing the dreaded soft zone, playing 6 to 8 yards off their man, and he was able to identify those on a lot of plays. So
the first time I saw him was when they played Kentucky, and I thought that he looked like he had some promise, you know.
Yeah,
And
for a freshman, he looked pretty good. And there was one pass in the first quarter that our DB was beat over the top, and it was a post, and he overthrew it by a yard, you know. But it was right on the money. You know, he just kind of let him a little bit too far, and you know that would have been a total game changer if that would have connected.
gotcha. All right. So you guys got anything else to say about that, or is
You know, it was Ashley. If you got anything,
Uh,
yeah.
I just want to say I do understand that Mullen was the one who, we'll say, instigated it all by being out on the field. I know that's a big media headline right now, and I understand that by him rushing out on the field, that he probably caused his side to come off the sidelines. I do wish we had a wider angle so that we could see exactly which bleachers emptied first. I feel like that would be more interesting. I've watched all the highlights I could find and can't find that angle. So I do think that would be somewhat relevant. But he got fined. He paid his fine. I think that's more than what all the other coaches that rush out on the field yell at the refs get anyway. So I think he's paid his dues, and I don't think it's that big of a deal at the end of the day. At least not as big as many of the media headlines are making out.
My take on it is that he should not have done that. He should have run out on the field screaming at the ref, screaming at anybody, just because at that point in time you're around a bunch of competitive other people who are prone to hitting each other, and you're the head coach, so your team's going to come to your back. My big thing on it was all of last week, all we heard about in the NFL was none of the Cowboys coming to Andy Dalton's defense when John Bostic hit him. Nobody batted an eye. To me, your entire team was ready to go to bat, not just for Dan Mullen, but for Kyle Trask. I am of the belief that Dan Mullen was clearly yelling at the ref. When you see the video where the assistant grabs him, you see that he's clearly yelling at the ref. The assistant grabs him. The referee goes this way. And then Dan Mullen turns all the way around. In the original video, the ref's in front of 2 or 3 Missouri players. He's looking in his direction. It looks like he's yelling at the Missouri players. I don't think that's the case. Maybe I'm just a biased observer. But in the video that I've seen, you can clearly see Dan Mullen irate, screaming in the direction of the ref. Assistant turns him. He turns to yell at the ref some more. That's my take on it. It was a very satisfying game. The brawl sucked. Shouldn't have happened. Embarrassing. And
do you think the suspensions were fair, or?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that there probably should have been some more people suspended.
I agree.
Zach Carter and Antoine Powell definitely threw punches. They were, to me, see, during the game, Zach Carter, Antoine Powell both got ejected. One Missouri player got ejected. After the game, when they go back and review it, Antoine Powell, Zachary Carter, they're suspended, rightfully so. 3 Missouri players get suspended. So there's this disconnect to where it's like, oh, Florida did all this stuff. Missouri was in there throwing some haymakers too.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, they get off scot-free because Eli Drinkwitz didn't raise hell. But, I mean, immediately after Eli and Dan Mullen went and shook hands and walked their teams off the field, and, you know, there was a clear understanding between the two, it seemed. You know, but that's my thing. You guys talk about your dogs.
Okay. All right.
Real quick, I'm watching the footage right now, and Ashley's right. It's not the best angle. I don't think we'll ever get a comprehensive answer on that.
Yeah.
I guess the thing that really kind of like was odd to me, like nothing was odd. We've seen fights before. We've seen suspensions before. We've seen fines before, whatever. I guess the thing that was just sort of odd to me, and make it what you will, Mullen gets fined $25,000, but Kiffin gets fined $25,000 for a retweet. So
Hypocrisy in action, man.
I don't know, man. You do with that what you will. All right, Matt. I saw a list that said that was it 15? We have had 15 of our 22 deep on defense on the injury reserve at some point this year.
Mm-hmm.
15 out of 22.
Yeah.
I guess it's a good thing we're at least 2 deep, you know. So we're having trouble scraping together a team this week, though. How many guys we got out?
As of right now, LeCount and Rochester are confirmed out.
Mm-hmm. Safety and a defensive tackle.
Jordan Davis is questionable. Pickens is still questionable.
Mm-hmm.
Quay Walker, Monty Rice, Lewis, Seen are all probable but dinged up. So this vaunted defense is not going to have both barrels. We will be bringing a 22 instead of a shotgun. Both, and it starts at the line. Both, the starting nose tackle and his backup both went down.
Yeah, they were rotating. We were rotating three big guys in the interior defensive line, and one guy goes out, and Matt and I were talking. I said, well, at least we were rotating. Now we got these other two, and as soon as I said it, another one of them goes down. I'm like, God damn. So
and then the field general, the heartbeat of the defense, Richard LeCount, gets into a motorcycle accident
after the game. Yeah, in Athens.
So,
was it a motorcycle or was it a scooter?
It was like a dirt bike, and he hit a car that was turning left, and then he got flipped into the oncoming traffic and got hit again,
wow.
Mm-hmm.
and is okay.
Yeah, the reports are that it doesn't seem to be anything really serious, but
he's out.
He's out, and so he'll come back at some point. But and I also saw
harp on injuries, but with who it happened to and how many of them got hurt. That's something Florida can exploit, and I don't think the defense is going to look the same this Saturday.
We're definitely going to have some opportunities for some young guys to play some roles.
We've won the recruiting national championship a few years, so let's see if that can pay some dividends. That's why you come, I guess, to Georgia to play defense. We'll see if it translates into production. I don't know.
Last week, one of the things I said was this whole COVID outbreak for Florida. One of the silver linings is that it gave basically our entire team, even the guys who weren't sick, the chance to recuperate, to get in better shape, to heal up, to get undeemed. Usually there's a bye week for Florida and Georgia before this game. Instead, Florida's coming in off of a Missouri game to where they got to sit their starters for the entire fourth quarter, preceded by 3 weeks off. So you guys, your team has been decimated, and that's something that I definitely think is a bit of an unfair advantage for us, is that you guys are not coming into this fresh, and the circumstances are unfortunate, and it's one of those things to where that bye week could have been huge. It may not matter, but it would have been huge,
we got the bye week. We got the bye week after Alabama, and so it was huge, but huge in a different way. So we got to go back to the drawing board and really look at ourselves and what went wrong and all that kind of stuff. But we were healthy, and then you just run into playing Kentucky's like sticking your finger in a pencil sharpener. It's like they just chewed us up. Kentucky was able to do things to us that we wish had not happened. They were able to possess the ball and really grind us a little bit, and that stuff starts to show to wear on you,
Mm-hmm.
So
I always think of the scene in We Are Marshall where Matthew McConaughey is going to talk to Bobby Bowden to learn how to run the veer. When I watch Kentucky play, that's what I think of, because you're just seeing huge guys, and the guys who aren't huge are chop blocking. And then by the second, third, fourth quarter, the defense is just like, they don't want to stand up. They don't want to go high. And then Kentucky just leans on you. And if they don't run over you, some of your starters are going to go out not feeling very good. Felipe Franks and Tim Tebow had their most serious injuries against Kentucky. And Kyle Trask almost got one from Cash Thomas, but he wasn't strong enough.
Marco Wilson also got ruined.
Oh, Marco Wilson, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll say this: moving forward from this year, Kentucky is the team. We asked about it a little bit last week, like who's number 3, and I think you guys were talking about as far as a talent standpool. I think Tennessee was your favorite. Matt, I think you said Missouri, and Missouri looks like to be the favorite to finish third.
I think we all said Missouri is going to finish third, but Tennessee should be third.
Yeah,
but Tennessee.
I think going forward, Kentucky is that team. I really do. They've done a really good job recruiting on the lines, both lines of scrimmage, and they don't have a quarterback answer yet. Who knows? Maybe Gatewood turns into some touchdown. Terry ain't it? But maybe Joey Gatewood is. Who knows, right?
Mark Stoops been there for a long time to not have the quarterbacks flowing in.
But he's been there. He's been there. What, 5-6 years? How long has he been there? 5 or 6 years, right?
Sure,
and but he was at one point the only SEC coach to improve upon his results every year of his tenure. When he came in, they were a 3-win program. The next year they win 4 or 5 games. Next year they win 5 or 6 games. Next year they're, you know what I mean? And this year Kentucky did something that was the first time that had ever happened in my lifetime. They started the season ranked. Now they've had a disappointing season. Don't get me wrong, but a ball bounce.
This season is just so weird. I don't even really put too much water on this season.
I do
He's
think
been there since 2013, though.
2013. Okay.
Season 7.
7 years. All right. So I just think that going forward, Kentucky is a team that you can't write. At one point, you could write them and Vanderbilt off. I don't think you can do that anymore with Kentucky. I think that they are at least South Carolina and they are at least Tennessee right now. Okay.
If you played the game, I wouldn't argue with that, but I do think the biggest thing is that Kentucky fans just don't care about football the same way
that is huge.
Schools do.
That is huge. All right, moving on. You guys want to say anything more about your defense?
Yeah, sure. I was really impressed with our young guys. I know you said y'all also have some young guys that are going to have to step up on defense, and I'm hoping our young guys stay on defense, actually. They seem to improve with guys like Jaden Hill and Rashad Torrance out there. Granted, Torrance a couple of times did give up a couple of plays, but they weren't huge misses. He was still able to stay behind his man and make the tackle, which hasn't been the case in the past couple of games. And that's where Texas A&M was able to succeed, is yards after the catch. After they got that catch, it was another 10, 20 yards, even a touchdown on most of the plays. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how Grantham decides to plug the players in that can come back, because we have pretty much our entire starting secondary from before this game now coming back into the mix, and who knows how it's going to shake out. We have depth charts out, but our depth charts have never ever been the same as what we start the game with. So.
For me, Ashley and I were anxiously awaiting Kyrie Campbell's return. Just that one person. The thing that really makes Grantham's defense work, at least since he's been at Florida, is having that guy that's a stereotypical 3-4 strong side defensive end that can set the edge, that can take up 2 blocks, and can still create pressure and havoc. When we've had Chris Bogle and Brenton Cox and Jeremiah Moon and these guys that have had to kind of slide over from that buck pure rush position to that defensive end position, teams have just kind of shredded us. Kyrie Campbell, he stepped in at the 3 next to Daryl Slayton, who I bashed last week, and he decided to go off and have 1.5 sacks in the best game that I've seen him play in a long time. So he played nose tackle, but him being this huge person that's supposed to just eat up blocks next to a fellow large human being that could eat up blocks and kind of rush the passer a little bit, kind of can set the pocket and the edge. It just made our defense click a little bit better. And I feel like it's kind of hard to say all of this because Missouri's offense, we talked about it in their game against Kentucky. It did not impress me very much. I know they put up 45 on LSU. LSU might give up 80 to us. So it's it's one of those things to where it's hard to really get too excited because this is the first game and we had a lot of random people. I do want to shout out number 37, walk-on defensive back Patrick Moorer, who not only is a walk-on, but came in during the second quarter and played meaningful minutes for a Florida football team as a walk-on defensive back at DBU.
It's impressive.
Yeah, I just want to make sure he gets a shout out.
And you know what? That is an interesting segue. So I'm going to let my friend Matt here talk about walk-ons too. You had to take the hat off.
I wonder if any other fan base has to go through this.
Don't even get me started.
Where I'm more pissed off after a win than I am after a loss. Because you can still see the writing on the wall, and yet we have a situation. There is a miasma around the Georgia offense right now. Stetso Baggins. The Hobbit. we have a big problem. I think we touched on this last week, but now it's getting some national traction. Give a little background. When Fields left, they mentioned it, but it was like, well, Fields is going to Ohio State. Never mind. Georgia's got Fromm. They'll be fine. Okay. Now this Stetson Bennett story has flipped, and it's starting to get touched on by the Herb Streets of the world. 24/7. There was an article on 24/7 Sports.
Where is JT Daniels?
The headline said, "Where is JT Daniels?" Question mark.
Yeah.
That was the headline.
Booger McFarland just straight. He's like, look.
Thought about you as soon as I saw that, Matt.
Yeah.
We have
Booger.
5 interceptions in 2 games. Y'all's quarterback's thrown less than that all year. One of those interceptions
In one fewer game.
Yeah, and one of them, a defensive lineman bats it down and catches the pass. I mean, I cannot wrap my head around why we're sticking with this guy. He is playing as good as he will ever play. He has plateaued. This is it for Stetson Bennett. He will never do better than what he's doing right now. And the play that made him famous was when he outran Big Cat Bryant on that 3rd and long and fired a bullet on 3rd and converted on 1st. And that's when everyone was like, we might have a feel-good story here. And then it quickly went into the toilet. I'm not feeling good about Georgia's chances to score on Florida because of our quarterback. And in fact, it's the opposite. There's not only no sign that there's going to be a change. Kirby is almost defiantly.
What do you mean there needs to be a change? He's
like smug about it.
Watch the press conference after the game last week. Matt warned me not to, and of course I lasted several days, and then I watched it, and there's just this question. There's just this reporter says something along those lines. Coach, when are we going to see another quarterback? And before the guy can even finish the question, Kirby goes, "Why do we need to see? Why do we need to see a quarterback? Everything Stetton's doing a good job out there." And it's just really, 8 possessions against Kentucky. We went touchdown, punt, interception, missed field goal, touchdown, punt, interception. Was it turnover on downs at the end of the game? I think it was. But scored 2 touchdowns, threw 2 picks. Now, the 2 times we punted on 4th and 1, the first time Kirby leaves the offense out there, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, coach, show some balls, and like he's going to go for – no, he just does that crap where he tries to draw him off sides and then calls a timeout and then sends out the punt. You know what? The next drive, Kentucky drove for, I think it was 22. Was it 22 plays? 22 plays or something like that. Like, I don't know, about 20 plays. And they wound up coming away with no points. But on that drive, on that 20-something play drive, they converted 4th down like 3 or 4 times, and Kentucky was like, we have nothing to lose. Let's go get it. And it was right after the Alabama game. Kirby in the post game press conference said, we feel like that if it's 4th and 1, we should be able to get it. That 1 yard should be ours. And he said that. He's like, that's just our philosophy. We feel like we should own that yard. And I'm like, great, coach. I'm on board. And you got this team here you're playing that just wants to hold the ball. They don't even care about scoring. They just want to hold on to the ball, keep it away from you, And here we are in 4th and 1, midfield. I'm like, coach, just stick it in, And no, we're going to kick it. And then, of course, that was it. They held the ball for the next 10 and a half minutes or something. Yep. It's maddening to watch the man make decisions, offensive decisions like that.
When I was looking at the stats for our matchup, one thing I noticed, Georgia is 3 for 7 on 4th down for the year. Why have y'all gone for it on 4th down so many times? Was it because against Alabama, y'all just had to do it a bunch of times? I think
Tennessee, he got lured in a pissing contest, I think.
There were a couple in Tennessee. Yeah, Tennessee won a couple of 4th down battles.
He wanted to answer that, is what he said in the press.
For me, 4th and 1, if you're in the 50-yard line or so, maybe even the 45, I really don't care if you go for it. If you punt, maybe you pin them in the 10, more than likely you're going to get them a touchback or something like that. So you're really going to be giving up 20 yards of field position, 30 yards. 4th and 1, if you convert it, you can break a defense, making them, we've seen it so many times, to where you convert the first one and it's like, oh, damn, I thought we were about to get off the field. Then you do it again. And then those guys are on, 10, 15 plays and they can't hold up.
go back and look at that first drive last week, Georgia. We didn't throw a pass. We didn't throw a single pass.
That first drive against Kentucky was a work of art. It was a work
That's
of
when
art.
I messaged you because I watched it, and watching the rest of the game, it reminded me so much of Doug Nussmeier and Jim McElwain, because the first drive we would come out and you'd be like, whoa, we have an offense. We can do stuff. And then as soon as they have to go off script, then you're like, well, the defense gets to adjust too. And now they know what we're going to do. Oh, now we don't do anything for the rest of the game. And you're just scratching your head wondering, why did it work so well the first time?
So that punt came on the second possession. So here we are, the first possession, it's like 8 yards at a clip. You know what I mean? Bang, 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 touchdown. You know? And I'm like, oh, snap. Because we were just talking about identity. What is Georgia's identity? I was like, looks like an identity to me, you know? And fine, just don't let Stetson hurt you. And bang, 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 bang. And then all of a sudden, the second possession, I mean, we're still cruising along. We get to a point, it's like, okay, there's a little stall out, but it's 4th and 1. Coach Kendall Milton, bang, Zeus, bang, you know. And then he's like, well, let's punt it. Hey, we got a good punter, but why do we got to use the punter? Second possession, man, go for it.
You know what, Coach, that really reminds me of, though, making those kinds of decisions.
What's that?
Muschamp. Yeah,
Muschamp.
Very similar. Very similar. Only thing, I mean, I guess Kirby is Will Muschamp who can recruit. I mean, I said it. I didn't stutter.
Well, I got news for you. I got a buddy of mine whose father's in the Maygill Society. My buddy will feed me some tips. And Kirby's lost. You can go online and just look at random fans, and you can get a feel for that Kirby's kind of lost trust as far as how he's handling the offense. But there are now donors. There are now big. These are boosters who make a phone call and stuff gets done in Athens, like that level.
Well, it's like Jimbo Fisher. That's what happened with Jimbo Fisher, was that, you know, obviously not the offensive issues, but towards the end of his time at FSU, his performance on the field had taken a little bit of a dip, or it wasn't meeting expectations. And then over the last 2 years or so, he started to have all of these different issues with the FSU administration, the boosters, the donors. And he said, okay, whatever. I'm one of the best in the game. There's 10 other schools that I can go to like you guys and be competitive. I'll take the money and run. Basically. And look at what's happened since then. You know, it's a dangerous game to play.
There's some rumblings that there are some big-time players who are doing a little more than scratching their head. And I'm not going to say that Kirby's in Jimbo's position yet. I'm not going to say that
we have to win a national championship first.
I'm not. Yeah, well, that's true. Which was the only reason he was brought to do that. I won't even say. I mean, he's not. Rick was nuclear in 2015, and it was actually the Florida game that got him fired. The decision was made that day on the Faton Bauta debacle. They let him coach the rest of the regular season, and they ran him out of town. And Brian McClendon, I think, was the interim head coach, and we beat Penn State in some bowl game. But the decision was made when he lost to Florida. If Kirby trots that hobbit out there and we lose as a result of what we've been seeing the last 3 weeks, everybody, you don't need to be a coach to be able to tell that we're not doing the right thing on the offense.
I think it's important to say if we lose like because of what we have been seeing.
Going to be on a warm seat. I'm telling you right now. Thank you for the recruiting. Love you. The fact you came here, damn good dog, all of that and the other. But we sacked a guy who averaged 10 wins a season.
So I'm taking a look at the starting quarterbacks for Georgia. So if we go back to 2000, we have Quincy Carter, David Green, DJ Shockley, skipping a couple, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Murray. So since Aaron Murray, Hudson Mason, Grayson Lambert, Faton Bata. So when Kirby comes in, he starts to replenish that stock, gets Jacob Eason, gets Justin Fields, Jake Fromm, Brock Vandegrift's in the pipeline. So you guys have had a lot of success with quarterbacks. Do you think Stetson Bennett is comparable to Grayson Lambert? Where do you view him in the hierarchy of recent Georgia quarterbacks? Is he the worst? I'm not asking you to bash anybody, but you have some perspective. If you're comparing
to those guys who suit up, I don't know that he's the worst.
The worst was Joe Cox.
He was on the list. I skipped over him because he only had one season starting.
Bryce Ramsey wasn't no prize. Let's just be honest. And Faton Bauta had his moment to shine and wound up getting his coach fired, or he was a component in what was already brewing. No, but I would say he's not a bad. If Stetson Bennett was the backup right now for one of these studs we have on the bench, I'd be happier than a pig and shit. He's the perfect backup. JT Daniels comes out and starts playing at Auburn like he should have and starts playing well. Offense goes on, but he takes a hard hit this weekend. He gets his bell rung. We need to put Stetson out there for 3 or 4 plays. I'm fine. I'm feeling good about it.
Yeah, you got a point.
But handing the keys to Stetson Bennett, if we win this weekend, that's as far as we're going.
You know who Stetson Bennett is? I'll tell you this. Stetson Bennett is Trevor Hoffman.
For the Padres?
Mm-hmm. If you have to face him once at the end of a game, you're probably in trouble. If you have to face him the entire game several times, eventually you'll just eat his lunch, And that's the thing with Stetson. It's like if you got a guy in there who can make a play, he's got some good arm strength, he's mobile, you know what I mean, like all the tools or whatever. And that guy, like Matt said, gets his bell rung. You bring in Stetson, you don't lose much. You do lose a little, but you don't lose much, and you probably survive long enough to get your other guy back in there. But man, if Stetson is your guy,
I feel like in 2020, if you don't have a quarterback, you're only ever going to be a Chick-fil-A Bowl participant. I mean, if you have to have a quarterback on your roster, on your starting quarterback, that's potentially a first or top, 3-round pick, and has the tools. And if you don't, teams are going to eat you up. Look at Michigan. Michigan hasn't figured it out. You guys haven't figured it out. We've kind of, gotten things rolling for us, but Clemson, Alabama, they've all gotten it figured out.
Mm-hmm. Ohio State,
yeah.
One out.
Here's a way you can make your top 10 poll. Put Georgia on the list. And then think about the best 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the whole country. Rank them. And then start with the bottom of that list and say, can Georgia beat this guy? If yes, can he beat the next guy? If yes, can he beat? And you just keep working your way up. Eventually, you only make it two spots or so because your best 4 quarterbacks are going to be representing your best 4 teams. And then you'll have Georgia. Georgia is like if it were a video game, like this fight, like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. When you turn the game on and you're just watching the demo screen, and there's always that one character on there that's just getting worked by the other guy. Yeah, that's Georgia. Georgia's that character that every other team gets to try their tricks out on. Like Clemson's and Alabama's and the Ohio States and Oklahoma's and whatnot of the world, typically. But perched, ready to fly. Just need a pilot. That's all. Hey, listen, I don't want to belabor any more of these woes. I actually want to try a new thing that Matt and I were talking about. I want to see what you guys think about this. And this is turntable. So turntable means that I want to hear from the Gators. What, in your opinion, how does Georgia win the game? And then, as Dog fans, we are going to say, how does Florida win the game? So you guys take it first.
Ashley, you want to start? Or you want me to start?
I'll let you start. And go ahead.
For me, for Georgia to win this game, I hate to go back to it, but you just got to take Stetson Bennett out of the equation. Florida is very vulnerable to giving up yards on the ground. Georgia is very good at running the ball. If Georgia is able to churn out 3-4 yards in a cloud of dust, break off a few big runs, set up the play action to Kearis Jackson, I think Florida's going to have some problems on their hands. If Georgia does what Georgia is good at, they're better than what Florida does on defense. I watching Georgia's offense the past few games makes me wonder if we're not going to see some weird plays coming out. I don't think that Georgia's offense is good enough to beat Florida's defense, even with our deficiencies. So I think that Todd Monken is probably going to draw some interesting stuff up to create some space. Those things, I think that's what it's going to come down to. I think all across the board, we have the advantage on the offense. There's no denying that. But your guys' defense is significantly better than ours. Your offense seems to be significantly worse, but in one game, an offensive coordinator can draw stuff up to make some plays. What about you, Ashley?
want to start off by saying the thing I'm most excited for about the game is definitely are there going to be any further antics, I guess you could say, like with Rick, whatever he called a timeout to bring the whole team on the field, or when Urban Meyer called 3 timeouts, I believe, at the end of the game with a minute left. I'm excited to see what Kirby Smart and Dan Mullen get into in that regard, especially with all of the recent Mullen bad guy news.
It's an interesting point.
Anyway,
it doesn't seem to be Kirby's shtick, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
But having said that, it didn't ever seem to be Rick's.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say.
So
I remember when that happened. I got so loud I was living in a condominium in Los Angeles. I got so loud upstairs that my roommate went outside thinking people were fighting, and then came back inside to check on me to see if I had heard anything outside about the fight.
Sounds about right.
beautiful.
Because I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Right, yeah.
I was
It was
really shocking. Used to Rick being like, the stoic, calm, cool, collective, never loses his cool. And when that happened, I was speechless, and then I started yelling. Then of course I
like seeing Bobby Cox at a bachelor party. It's like can't process it. All right, so
anyway, the key, I think, to for Georgia to win the game is honestly for them to pound the ball. I think they just need to constantly rush right up the middle because, in my opinion, even though we do have some deficiencies with our cornerbacks, at the same time, our middle linebackers to stop the run are also some underrated recruits and have only played at a average level so far. We really excel with our pass rush and with 1 or 2 of our corners. And so if Georgia can constantly just rush up the middle and our linebackers, if they just fail to contain any of you got a huge stable of running backs. And if we can't stop those guys, then I think it's going to be an issue. One thing that does help us a little bit, I think, is it seems like Georgia doesn't seem to run as many trick plays. Missouri and Ole Miss and Texas A&M got us with reverses and sweeps constantly. And it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like you seem to run the ball up the middle a lot more, and so hopefully you don't stick with that. But I think
that's why I think Todd Monken's going to have something drawn up that's going to be in his back pocket, and it might be like Les Miles at LSU, to where the game is close, and then fourth quarter some ridiculous play that makes no sense pops up. And
it's if you have talent at all positions. I'm not being snarky. I'm saying if you have talent at all positions, you don't have to be as exotic,
Mm-hmm.
And you just play straight up. It's like I'm bigger than you, I'm stronger than you. I'm just going to run over you. And unfortunately, almost all the teams that we line up, all the teams, including Florida, we're going to outstar them, across the board. Out talent them across the board.
That was Alabama's method for the 2008 to 2012 or so versions of Alabama, and they've since adapted. Now you have Steve Sarkisian calling plays for a team that Georgia, maybe you outstar them technically, but Alabama's loaded. Let's not kid ourselves. So you have creativity and equal talent.
That's
Clemson,
exactly what
creativity,
Georgia is.
Equal talent.
Georgia,
Ohio State.
And we've said it many times, Georgia is 2009 Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same team,
I mean, we saw 4 years of it, of trying to emulate that. And meanwhile, Nick Saban is just looking around like, hey, guys, I changed strategies like 7 years ago. And his assistants are just like, oh, run the ball. He's a defensive coach. I'm a defensive coach. We got to control it. And then, it just doesn't work like that anymore. And if it does work, your margins of error are razor thin, like 2012 Florida to 2013 Florida. That's how thin your margins can be.
So, Matt,
let's get our keys to Florida winning.
Yeah.
There's one last thing I want to touch on before we sign off. So, you want to go first, Mitch?
No, you go ahead.
Florida will win the game if they adapt what I call the South Carolina blueprint. At this point, you just load the box and dare Stetso Baggins to beat you, and I think it's a wash. I don't think there's any way he's going to threaten even a defense with deficiencies. Like you said, you guys got a pretty good pass rush. You've got some corners. It's Stetson Bennett. You're not going to be facing a gunslinger here. You just outmath us. Bring more people than we can block to stop the stable of backs. and I think you got it. Offense, you don't need to change anything. Just keep doing what you're
Matt,
doing.
he brings up another good point with this is not only is, we spend a lot of time complaining about Stetson. The fact of the matter is this: George Pickens, Kearis Jackson, our top 2 receivers, are sophomores. Jermaine Burton is a freshman. The tight end, Washington, is a freshman. We don't have, and they all are. They all will be tremendous talents at some point. They were produced at some point, but right now they're tiny little babies, And we got Frodo Baggins over here throwing balls at them, So it's like, yeah, we're spoiled. We want, come on, we want to see the results, but you step back and look at it, you're like, what results are you expecting here? So I'm going to go with Matt. The South Carolina defense. Yeah, the thing that Will Muschamp did to us last year that everybody from that point forward copied. You could see Georgia's points per game coming into South Carolina. I mean, what were we like? I want to say it was like 38 points. 38 points. It was just shy of 40 points a game. After South Carolina, it was like 19 points. I mean, we just fell off a map because people were just crowding the box and saying, come on, Fromm, come and get us. Because the thing about Fromm was he didn't have a backup last year. Yeah, it was Stetson Bennett, but he didn't have a backup. We knew we had Fromm in a glass case, and we knew that we couldn't risk losing him. And so anytime, teams are going to bring pressure, whatever, we're just going to take the safe way. And Fromm was just, when teams were able to exploit that, it started to show. We had no teeth. It was just a big, beastly defense with – it's like a bear with no claws. You know what I mean? Still a bear, still very, very strong, but it's not going to really hurt you all that bad, And then when George Pickens emerged against Baylor in the bowl game, we thought, we get that boy some help, and we'll see what happens. And I think that Pickens might still be at the Sugar Bowl. Well, that was the Sugar Bowl, right? I think he might still be there. I haven't seen him since. Yeah.
Had some milk carton down.
I was going to say, I put milk on my cereal this morning. Had George Pickens right on the label.
Yeah, when I was looking at the stats for you guys, I was pretty surprised at how well Kearis Jackson's playing this year.
He worked his butt off.
Yeah.
In the offseason.
24 receptions for 348 yards. Yeah. This isn't an extra game, so just to kind of give a comparison, Kyle Trask, 1,341 yards, 68.3% completion, 18-2 TD to interception. Stetson Bennett in one more game has 1,089 yards, 58.4, 7-5 TD interception. So I was thinking, looking at those stats, your receivers probably aren't going to be doing too much. Kearis Jackson already has 350 yards receiving. You guys have 3 other people, so 4 total with 100+ yards receiving. That's pretty good. I know Stetson Bennett is kind of the limiting factor there. But to me, that tells me that when you guys do throw the ball, the people that are getting it have the ability to make yards.
Yeah. So basically the recipe is you put your best defensive guy on George Pickens and then hope for the best. And so far this year, Kearis has been able to step up and deliver because Pickens is getting blanketed so much. But Pickens also needs to step up and, I think Burton's going to be a really good player moving forward. He's shown me some stuff, and I just wish we had somebody that could deliver it to him. Burton's pretty exciting. All right.
I have a question for everybody.
Shoot, go for it.
We sign off.
Well, we got to do picks too. So.
All right. Well, real quick, in this rivalry, for you gentlemen personally, let me just start with the Florida guys. What is the most painful loss to Georgia? What is the one that sticks out that you're like, oh my
I wanted to ask you guys this question.
So we'll do it's another sort of not turntable, but. Not really, but
basically.
Tell me what is the one loss to Georgia that you're just like I can't.
Ashley, you go first.
On my mind is I can't just pull one out of my memory. Really, I feel like there's a bunch of them, but the one that's just at the forefront is the one that got McElwain fired, just because it signaled like the end of it all and made me actually like step back and realize, wow, why have I been rooting for McElwain for so long?
Watching the pregame interview for that game to where they basically ask him, hey, have you heard that you might be fired after this game? How does that affect your team? And he's just like, oh, we're just going to try our best and do our best and work really hard. And then it's like 28-0 by the end of the first quarter. And you're like, oh, yeah, your players are really busting it for you, McElwain. Yeah. For me, 2012. That is the year to where we were undefeated. I'm not sure if you guys were undefeated at that point, but either way, top 5 matchup.
We had lost the game.
What?
We had lost the game. We were number 12 coming into that game.
Gotcha.
Y'all were number 3, I think.
Yep. And Jordan Reed decides to try to, and now admittedly we were down by 8, I believe, so it would have been a bit of a stretch, but he decides he's going to try and jump into the end zone from the 5-yard line, and I believe it was Jordan Jones, one of your linebackers. He's out. He went to the NFL. I think he played for the Bears actually.
It was.
I'll
come up with it.
He transferred from USC.
Jarvis
Jones. There you go. And he forced the fumble. Georgia gets the ball and runs the clock out. I thought that we were going to have no drop off from Urban Meyer aside from the transition year. We were going to be going to the SEC and national championship, and Jordan Reed dashed all of those hopes with one ill-timed jump.
Mitch?
Oh, from me, it's definitely 27-3. The last year with Rick.
Oh, that one.
Where we just basically came out and just laid a lifeless corpse of a football team on the field and allowed Florida to just dry hump it for 4 quarters. That was it.
Pretty sure Kelvin Taylor and Matt Jones both had 200 yards in that game.
It was awful. It was I mean, I was like, look, if we lose 27-24, I'm hurt, but like I'm able to walk around. 27-3. We didn't do anything. Just didn't do anything. And so it was. We all knew it was Rick's time to go. And I don't know. Maybe it feels good to know that like that's kind of the push that he needed to get on out the door. So, but it sucked.
The one for me is the one that started it all. And by it all, I mean my hatred for Florida and everything Florida, except you guys.
Oh, thanks.
I was present as a young child with dreams and stars and rainbows in my eyes when Spurrier hung half 100 in Athens. And that's the one. That's the one that, like, to this day, those types of experiences don't leave you, especially when you're there live.
See, I tell we have some recency bias with our picks, but I can tell Matt's is that one is at the core of who he is as a Georgia fan.
Yeah. See, like Mitch, I don't think his hatred for Florida burns as bright as mine. I think
I like to beat
his
Florida.
guns are focused on Auburn, and
yeah.
I think it deals with. I mean, is Georgia, for you two specifically, is Georgia your most hated rival? Because I know a lot of Florida fans who tell me no, absolutely not. It's FSU.
Yeah, FSU. So okay, part of it is it's much like Tennessee.
More, but
yeah,
is, like in the grand scheme of things, because they're always the way through the East, and so like that puts it on a bit of a pedestal. But at the same time, the Tallahassee is just a team we hate more than anybody, I think. So.
And part of it for me, at least, I turned 30 years old yesterday. During that time period, Florida has dominated Georgia, Florida, most every other team in the East during that time period. Within the past 5 to 8 years or so, the Florida-Georgia game has become really competitive, and here recently it's skewed towards Georgia. For me, most of the time, we beat Georgia 2/3 of the time or so with Spurrier and Meyer, and so it wasn't too much of a rivalry because we won so often, and that made it to where I respect you guys way more than I respect FSU, and because of that, I hate you guys a lot less.
This past decade is the most competitive the rivalry has been ever. If you look back through the results, it's been very streaky.
Yep.
It always comes in like 20-year chunks.
Yep.
Florida had the 90s and the 2000s. Georgia had the 80s and the 70s. Florida had the 50s and the 60s. Georgia had going on, so on and so forth. Very, very streaky. And now it seems to be like one team will get 3, and then the other team will start getting 3. And then it's like in this last decade, it's actually been a rivalry where you kind of, because on the other side of your coin, where you guys probably in the 2000s and especially the 90s, you just showed up. You might have even been like, we got Georgia. I wrote it off as, we're going to lose to Florida. Like, why are we even playing this game? It got to that point where we were conditioned, like, we can't beat it. It's just, why are we even doing this anymore?
Yeah, in the past 5 years,
like,
my hatred for Georgia has definitely grown. It was very small before the past 5. Part of it is I used to work with a lot of Georgia fans. And as I'm sure you guys are all aware, the more time you spend around your rival's fan base, the more you start to dislike your rival.
Yeah, it's definitely Auburn for me. And that is probably a geography thing. I don't know, living in Southwest Georgia, just Columbus is only like 2 hours north, and then once you get to Columbus, you're basically in Auburn, And there's just something about these colors, orange and blue. Just I don't know. I mean, I guess you guys have orange and blue too, but it's a different shade.
It's better.
Yeah, it's just fine. It's just somehow better. But I do know that Georgia fans who are towards the north end of the state tend to hate Tennessee, and the ones who are out east sort of tend to hate South Carolina. So I think it's a geography thing. Matt's from Valdosta, so
we're from South Central, baby. We're like 95. We are eat up with Gator fans, and unfortunately, we are eat up with FSU fans. I had to deal with both of them.
That was one of the more surprising things for me is when I met a bunch of people from Bainbridge, and they were FSU fans.
Oh, dude, Bainbridge is a suburb of Tallahassee.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't put 2 and 2 together beforehand, but once they told me, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And working at the high school there, I was like, God, you have 2 camps. You have Dog fans and you have Knowles fans, And when Kirby got hired, Kirby is like a local celebrity in Bainbridge because he played football there. His daddy was the football coach. You know what I mean? Like he's big nuts in Bainbridge, right? And so when he got hired at Georgia, that was a big deal. But our principal at the time, huge FSU guy, and when he heard the news, Kirby got the job in Georgia, and our guy was like, "Eh." Shut up. A very nice man otherwise, but he would always ask me, "How are your puppies looking this year?" And I was like, "Okay." But hey guys, let's get to these picks before we run this hour out.
Right, good. We did a really good job of keeping it on schedule.
All right, so listen, last week, what is that? You ever see the Beavis and Butthead movie where he says, "Oh, I took a beating." I took a beating. I came out a little freewheeling. So Ethan won last week. Matt and Ashley tied, and well, there you go.
Mitch participated.
I participated. Here's my trophy. So given that Ethan was the winner, I think that means you get to pick first.
Are we starting with Florida versus Georgia?
Save that one for last.
That makes more sense. Let's go in reverse order.
All right, so we got Tennessee 1.5 over Arkansas.
7:30 game. Yep, and Tennessee's going to Arkansas. It's at Arky.
I'll take Arkansas.
Yeah.
With a surprise, Felipe Franks has a special place in his heart for just stabbing the dagger in Tennessee fans' hearts. So,
all right, so you're going to take the Pigs and 1 1/2 points. All right, Matt, you got something?
Suey
Pig. All right, Ashley?
I'm also going to have to go with Arkansas.
God dang it.
Hot dogs.
This is your chance to make up ground, Mitch.
The only way I can make up ground is to bet on Sloppy Top.
Don't do it. You don't do anything.
I don't actually like Arkansas. I actually think that I enjoy watching them play. I think they're a decent team. Definitely made some improvements, blah, 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 blah. But I wish I was on good old rock. I'll take them. I'm gonna take the orange without the blue.
So you're taking Tennessee?
I got to. I have to make up ground.
Okay.
Or get further buried. All right. So who wants the next? Ashley, want the next one?
Yeah, I'll take the next one. I'm gonna go with Texas A&M, and they're going to cover the spread, even though it's 10 points. They put a beating on us, and they're going up against Will Muschamp. So we know South Carolina is not going to score anything. I have full confidence in Texas A&M to take this one.
Going into that LSU game, man, I was riding South Carolina so high. I was like, oh my God, they finally starting to put the pieces together, starting to look like an actual football team. And then they played LSU, who is admittedly extraordinarily bad at football this year. And LSU just did wheelies on them, man. I think Kellen Mond and company are just going to do whatever they want to. So I'll take TAMU in the points too.
Who's next? Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Aggies. I'm going to go with the Aggies on this one, and to cover. I I read an interesting article. Like, they've had a bumpy road here and there, but they're a pretty talented squad. They're one of those teams. They're kind of like the West version of Kentucky. Like, if you write them off at your,
at your peril.
Yeah, like Jimbo's getting desperate.
And Spiller is running the ball.
My grandmother lives out
too.
there in Texas. She gives me. They're all about the Aggies. She's got some friends who are high up in that program.
And who's that player they have that number 0? The Anais. His name is Anais Williams or something.
Yeah. He ran all over.
They're not going to keep paying him $75 million a year.
Yeah.
South Carolina, Texas A&M's going to take that game.
Yeah. I will take South Carolina to cover. I think Texas A&M wins outright, but I think South Carolina's gonna. Did you guys know Will Muschamp and Jimbo Fisher have a beach house together? That's another one of those tidbits that when Florida State was running up and down the field on us, the commentators like to remind everybody that Jimbo Fisher and Will Muschamp both worked for Nick Saban. They're both good buddies from back in the day, and I think South Carolina. I think they'll cover the 10 points.
Okay.
Fair enough. Okay.
I could be totally off this week, but who knows?
I'll take the next one, Matt. Let's see. What do we got here?
I believe you were looking at Vandy at Mississippi State. Mississippi State's favored by 19.
Mississippi State is a 19-point favorite, and they will win this game against Vandy because Vandy is god awful. But there is no way that Mississippi State is 19 points better than anyone right now. I don't think so. I will take Vandy to cover.
I'm going to go with Mitch on this one as well. I'm going to take Vandy to cover. I think that last week, like Mike Leach got shut out for the first time in his career, 234 games without being shut out, and it happened last week. So. Yeah, that's the air raid. Yeah, they might blow Vandy out of the water. 19 points. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Vandy to also cover. Mississippi State's obviously going to win, but it's just too large of a spread, and both teams seem to be somewhat imploding.
Yeah, that's too much. That's too many points for me too. I'm gonna take Vandy to cover.
Okay, all right. And here we go. There's no need to discuss this final pick. I just got an Amber Alert. Oh, okay. UF travels to UGA. Actually, they're both going to Jacksonville. But UGA is favored by 3.5. Matt, you're first.
Oh, man.
I wonder how these picks are going to go.
If we were betting real money,
real money.
Mm-hmm. I would probably do something you would like. But since I don't gamble, and I'm not going to gamble on this one. Oh.
Come on, man! It's for the picks. It's for the standings. You're tied for second right now.
I know. Oh God. I'll take Florida to cover.
Florida to cover,
but Georgia to win.
Okay.
Wow, what a pick! That's interesting. Wait, hold on, time out. Georgia's favored. You can't pick Florida to cover and Georgia to win.
I meant it the other way. I meant for Florida to cover.
Gotcha.
So Georgia minus 3.5. I mean, I'm picking Georgia given the points.
Yeah. You guys are not going to have me on camera picking against my own team. So yeah, definitely Florida. Florida, not in this game at least. Florida versus Georgia. Yeah, Florida wins.
Ethan and I differ in 3 out of 4 games. I like this.
Regardless of it being just a virtual bet, I would 100% bet everything on Florida to cover. I think we got it. I think we can easily take this game. I'm excited for it.
So I feel better about this game than I have any other Florida-Georgia game since 2015.
Wow.
If you guys are going to do it, this is the year to do it.
I think that's.
It's not going to get any easier for you moving forward. Well, we don't think. We'll see how this thing shakes out with Kirby. But.
This is Stetson's practice year. He gets a whole nother year of eligibility, Matt.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Listen, it's we're 59 minutes in this video, this 30-minute video. So it's been fun. I'm thankful that you guys didn't get my blood pressure up and make me have to yell and wake up my children. So I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to doing more of this stuff down the road.
Definitely.
Any last words?
To hell with Georgia. Go Gators.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Go Gators. I'm excited to see Kadarius Toney break everybody on Georgia's legs. Sorry, you're going to have some more injuries.
Oof.
All right, Matt, what you got?
Oh man, I wish I wasn't in such a funk about it. I wish I could come with some more firepower, but I think it's going to be a close one. Georgia's going to find a way to win, but it'll be like Florida will cover. I mean, I don't know.
All right.
I'm not confident.
There's the 1 hour mark, people. So let's cut it. See everybody next time around. Good luck this weekend to everyone, and hopefully we can catch the Tennessee guys tomorrow or something. All right.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Later
Run,
on.
Lindsey, run.
Good one.